Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
Yeah, glad to have you with us here on this Tuesday edition of Kentucky's Voice. I'm Jim Waters, and joining me in the studio is co-host Tom Fallbush. Tom, welcome into the show.
Thanks, Jim. Glad to be with you. I don't get to do the show with you very much.
Well,
so this is cool.
I'm glad you stopped by. We're always glad to have the help and collaboration.
That's right. Yeah.
Say that. But hey, we had a great time last night at Evangel Church with the founding event of Turning Point USA Faith Chapter in Louisville, and it's the first one here, third one in Kentucky. Last night's event included some really inspiring, wonderful presentations from some Turning Point USA leaders, young people here in Kentucky on the university campuses. We're going to be joined by a couple of those in a moment here. And on today's show, we're going to get some more reaction from last night's kickoff, what impact it could have on our community, especially among our young people, with Zach Scott, our resident Gen Zer. I think I got that right.
That's right.
Here at Kentucky's Voice, who also serves as our social media manager. What would we do without Gen Zers and their social media expertise? I don't know. But he's engaged with this movement. This, I call it a revival of faith, family, and freedom, which I'm not the only one that said that. We heard that last night. It's sweeping our nation since, of course, the assassination of Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk. Then in our final segment today, we're going to be joined by great Cuban-American Hector Gonzalez, who will be speaking at an event later this week here in Louisville on how America should learn the lessons of communism from what happened to his native country. He's particularly concerned about what's happening in New York and what that means for our country. We'll talk about that in our final segment, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, as they say today. But first, I thought talk show host Kim Iverson made a great point on her show recently about how all this rift going on between Donald Trump and Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massie, Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, disproves actually another theory by the left about conservatives in this country. See if you can pick up what that is on this clip.
Trump is actually dishing it out towards Marjorie Taylor Greene. Trump is calling her a traitor.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. Frankly, I don't think anybody cares about her.
Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie, they're being shoved out. They're doing what they believe is best for the country rather than best for their donors or best for a foreign country. They're being painted as these vile anti-Semites who are just lost, and the base doesn't agree with them. That is not true. The base agrees with them. This is the base. Overwhelmingly, this is the base. These are America First Americans, and they're being smeared for being America First. Let's not forget that. The reasons they're being smeared is simply for wanting to expose blackmail from a foreign Middle Eastern country. So there's this crazy, strange, anti-America First sentiment that is being pushed, and they're trying to get us to believe that the majority of people are against these Americans. That's what they're trying to gaslight us into believing. But it's just not true, because the vast majority of Americans are actually very much in line with these people. This is where the base is. The base is not going along with Donald Trump. This should be shocking to Democrats, because they kept saying to us for the last 10 years now that basically the base is just brainwashed and they're just followers, blind followers of Donald Trump, which is not true, and we are seeing it happen in real time. The Republican base has a mind of its own, and they have chosen against Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump has found himself swimming in the swamp, and rather than saying, I got to get out of here and I got to drain this swamp, instead he's saying, no, if you're outside of the swamp, you're the problem.
Yeah, so I'm not saying I necessarily agree with everything that she said there, but I'm making a point here that the left, the Democrats, Tom Fallbush, claimed that those who voted for Trump are all brainwashed, that we can't think for ourselves, that we can't have a difference of opinion, whereas many voters in Kentucky especially voted for both Trump and these America First representatives, but that's not the kind of political dexterity you see on the left. I mean, you see they're in lockstep with whoever they're told to be in lockstep with. So ironically, they're calling us on the right brainwashed. Sounds like projection to me, or at the very least, the pot calling the kettle black. I'm sure we'll talk about this more coming up, but we're going to be joined today by Alex McGlade, president of Turning Point USA chapter at Bellarmine College, and looking forward to getting his reaction of last night's event. He did a great job last night. We're going to hear his story and how he got involved with this great organization and more coming up. Don't go away, right here on Kentucky's Voice. Stay with us, 502-571-0970. Let us hear from you today.
To Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
You can hear Kentucky's Voice live 11 to noon each weekday, and then catch us on television this afternoon, especially Tom Fallbush. He looks really great on there, his hat. I love it. Catch us this afternoon at 12:30. I just haven't gotten brave enough to wear one of those yet. 12:30, 4 and 8 this afternoon, and this evening. We're also streaming live across social media platforms. Make this part of your day. Hey, you know, we're on right here before the Charlie Kirk Show, which is still going great. It's even greater in some ways than it's ever been. So stay with us right here on 970 for that as well. The assassination of Charlie Kirk on September 10th at Utah Valley University hit like a thunderbolt, of course, but what we've seen in the months since that time is not defeat. It really isn't. It's a firestorm of resolve, I call it, that's supercharging the conservative movement. Charlie Kirk, that fearless voice for freedom, faith, and American grit, didn't just build Turning Point USA. He lit a spark in a generation of campus, tired of campus censorship, cultural decay, and we heard last night, cold churches. How about that? His murder has turned grief into gasoline, if we can put it that way, proving once again, Tom Fallbush, that the left's tolerance for dissent ends where their power begins.
Absolutely. You know, the old saying, you know, the church is built upon the blood of the martyrs. Well, yeah, I think the conservative movement, the MAGA movement, the Turning Point USA movement is really being enhanced and obviously growing further from that from the tragedy. I mean, yeah, I hate to, you hate to see that.
Well, that's been the way it has been throughout church history.
It has, right?
And since the beginning, when we had lots of persecution.
Exactly.
But here's the thing: the same thing's happening now that happened then. The numbers are exploding.
Yeah.
Turning Point USA has racked up over 350,000. If it's an unofficial number, but somebody can correct me if I'm wrong here. But 350,000 new student registrations is what I understand,
wow.
And 130,000 inquiries for fresh college and high school chapters. One Texas chapter alone gained 100 members overnight, with field reps calling it unprecedented growth. You know, Charlie Kirk dreamed of a Club America chapter at every high school in the country, 23,000 strong, and now his team is saying that vision is closer than ever. It can happen.
Yep.
Young people who were whispering their belief in dorm rooms now are shouting it from the rooftops, inspired by a man who showed them that bravery isn't optional and that those who speak up are going to be the ones who count. We heard him say that. And today we're talking to two of those wonderful folks today, two Kentucky University students who are carrying the torch on our campuses. So glad to see this, so inspiring. And with us today, Alex McGlade, who's president of the Turning Point USA chapter at Bellarmine College here in Louisville, and then Ashley Watkins, who's president of the Turning Point USA chapter at the University of Louisville. There she is, and we're glad that you both could join us today. Welcome to Kentucky's Voice. Thank you for being here. This has been an incredibly interesting time and inspiring time. Last night's event was great. Alex, let's start with you. Walk us through how you got involved with Turning Point, your personal story. How does a student at a private Catholic school here in Louisville end up starting a Turning Point USA chapter on a campus here? And tell us about what happened with that.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I got involved with Turning Point mostly last year. Charlie Kirk actually came to Michigan, where I'm originally from, and he gave a Prove Me Wrong event at Michigan State University. And before that, I knew who he was. I had seen his clips on social media, but after seeing that, in my home state, I really started to get more involved. And so when I came down to Bellarmine, I wanted to get something going. And I know that there were a few other students on my campus that wanted to get something going. And so we put in a request with the Turning Point National Organization. We got set up as a chapter through them. And then the next step is getting recognized by our school as an organization. And it took about 6 weeks. They denied our application 3 times to be on campus. And yeah, then finally, just in October, they approved us, and we actually just had our first event.
Yeah. Well, tell what the school said some things, or what happened there. Tell us what happened during that 6 weeks and how you were able to overcome that.
Yeah. So originally they were denying our request for a chapter on the basis that they really didn't want a lot of expressive ideas to be on campus, right? They didn't want a conservative movement to come onto a campus that is more liberal than conservative. And so those first 6 weeks and those first about 4 applications we put in, they were getting denied for minuscule reasons. The last one that got denied, the third one before our fourth one finally got approved, they denied it for grammatical errors. Just there was an extra semicolon in one of the sentences of our Constitution that we hold and we post on Bellarmine's student activities website. So they were really denying us for pointless things. And then once we finally got approved, we had to get approved again to be able to do events on campus. And the first event we wanted to do was hand out the constitutions. And Turning Point is generous enough to give us some constitutions. And obviously they have the Turning Point logo on them. And they also have a message from our late founder, Charlie Kirk, that just says pretty clearly that the Constitution is the greatest political document ever written. And that's the truth. There's nothing political about that. There's nothing partisan about that. But when I went to ask if we would be allowed to hand it out on campus, they said no, and that the Constitution was too partisan, and they wanted the students here to be able to.
The Constitution's too partisan, Alex. Really? I mean.
Yeah, I know. And so yeah, it was definitely a spot that our chapter got stuck in, because it seemed like nothing we could do, nothing we could say would get us approved. And then finally, there was a different event on campus for a different group that is way more left leaning, and they had a lot of resources and signs, and they were partners with a lot of outside institutions that were all funding the DNC and funding Democratic candidates. And so I went into a meeting and I said, if we're not allowed to hand out the Constitution because it's too partisan, why are these groups who are all left-leaning allowed to hand out these documents and these pamphlets from groups that support the DNC openly and publicly?
Yeah. Well, good for you. Well, and Ashley, I want to ask you the same question here, give you an opportunity to kind of give us your story about how you arrived here. And you're the president of the Turning Point USA chapter at the University of Louisville. You were sort of nominated for that unexpectedly, weren't you?
Yeah, I've been doing this for about a year now. I started in the fall. It's been a great experience. Coming in, I wanted to be a part of something bigger than me, and just wanted to kind of fit it on campus. It's very hard to have that kind of like conservative Christian background on campus and get along with people that share the same um, feelings as well. So I was looking at clubs on campus and found Turning Point USA. I was really surprised. I grew up watching Charlie on social media like a lot of people, and just I wanted to be part of the group. So I contacted the field rep, and she actually was like, "Yeah, we don't have a president yet." And I was shocked by that too. And I was like, "I'd be more than happy to fill the position." So that's what we did, and tabled for a while, me and my vice president, and we struggled for a very long time. We had about 7 people in the chapter for quite a while, and my vice president actually emailed Charlie with our hardships, and we didn't really expect to get a response knowing how busy Charlie is, but he ended up responding to us. And this is exactly what he said. It says, it takes a lot of grit to build a successful chapter, especially at a school like Louisville. You will get knocked down and held back, but don't give up. We're a grassroots organization. Start small by tabling at every event you can. This kind of turnaround doesn't happen overnight, so don't get discouraged. I wish you the best of luck and God bless. So it was really nice
Wow,
to
that's great.
get to hear that from him. And that's kind of just what we did. We started tabling a lot and started putting our name out there. And then after the assassination, my phone just kind of like blew up overnight. I had older people contacting me, wanting to get involved, and a lot of younger people. We went from 7 to 91 members at the University of Louisville. Something I never expected at all. Just something out of like our wildest dreams.
Ashley, do you think that's an indication their students know this is needed? And I know you talked a little bit about this last night, how much this kind of presence is needed on the U of L campus, and
Oh, of course.
how lost so many people are there.
Yeah. So in the entire Southeast region, University of Louisville is the third most publicly recognized liberal university. So we do have it very rough. It's just free speech is kind of just not welcome on campus, which is crazy to me. We get a lot of backlash for everything that we do. And yeah, and with Charlie's assassination, there was just an awful um, graphic that was published with his face on it and his assassination, and that was just posted publicly up all over the university, and it was just awful to see. And the first thing that my exec board did was that we contacted U of L PD, and we were like, look, like, this is free speech, but it comes to a point when free speech um turns into threats, and that's just not okay at all, and it makes conservatives afraid to use their voice on campus. So yeah.
Well, we're gonna stay with us. We're gonna talk more about with our guest today, Alex McGlade and Ashley Watkins, leaders in our Turning Point USA movement in Kentucky. We're so excited to have them with us. And don't go away. We're gonna talk more about Turning Point USA faith coming up.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
to Kentucky's Voice Radio online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice here on this Tuesday. Glad to have you with us. Hope you're having a great day. Join us here. We want to hear from you. 502-571-0970 is our Kentucky's Voice text line. If you're listening today, let us know. If you were at the event last night at the Turning Point USA Faith chapter kickoff at Evangel World Prayer Center last night, over 100 folks in that room. They're going to have to get a bigger room. They get many more people there because it was full. But we'd love to hear from you. Love to hear your thoughts and what you felt, what you saw, what you thought about, what it made you think about, or if you just want to say, hey, I was there and inspired, just let us know. 502-571-0970 and support this effort. You can text us at that number or text give to 502-571-0970. This is a listener-supported ministry. You're listening to this right now on 970 WGTK, across social media platforms live, and then catch us on television this afternoon. Channel 21, WBNA here, and just a great opportunity there for us to get this word out. And we're glad to have with us today Alex McGlade, who's president of Turning Point USA at Bellarmine, and Ashley Watkins, who is at the University of Louisville, president of that chapter. Alex, what's it like being a college student these days if you're a committed, conservative, common sense Christian, which you are?
Yeah, it's definitely a feeling of division on campus. And I even go to a private Catholic university, and even there's definitely a feeling of division between students based on purely political stances. I think that there's three things that really play into that. The first one is indoctrination, which I know you guys have touched on in previous shows, but throughout from middle school now all the way up until to our universities, we have these curriculums that are indoctrinating students and teaching them hateful rhetoric. And that definitely leads to division on campus. Even after our first event, we had people posting on social media, disgusting things about us, saying we were disgusting, saying people needed to come out and stone us. And it's stuff like that this indoctrination is putting into students. And so, yeah, there's definitely a very real feeling of division. And a lot of people are scared. We had a lot of people come up to our table and just say, like, I'm so excited that this is coming to our campus, that Turning Point is coming to our campus because it's needed. But the problem is how certain people act towards Turning Point and towards these kinds of organizations is violent and it's hateful. And so a lot of students are scared to speak their beliefs.
Ashley, you talked a little bit about this before the break about what had happened after the assassination of Charlie Kirk and what happened there. Add to that your thoughts about how important it is for the faith community to stand up. And Charlie Kirk, he almost welcomed these kind of opportunities, though, didn't he? When there were these kinds of reactions, he saw that as an opportunity, not so much a threat. He saw that as also a way to show the need for what you're doing, some of the response you're getting.
Yeah, it's very nice to have TPUSA Faith as a presence in Louisville, and just getting the support that they give us is awesome. What Rex is doing is amazing, especially when it comes to supporting colleges. And yeah, I'll agree with Alex on this one, and I'm sure that most conservatives on college campuses can say the same, but college has gotten bad, like very bad, and it's not what it used to be at all. I'd say that on campus, it can be rewarding, but also a bit challenging being involved with Turning Point USA, and sometimes it can feel a bit isolating. There tends to be a lot of like tension or assumptions about our character, kind of like what Alex said. But it's just, don't send your kids to college. I'll just be honest. It's gotten worse. Yeah. The indoctrination is just out of this world. And, if you want to submit a paper or anything like that, you have to just go with what the teacher believes in, or else you'll get a bad grade. It's just, you cannot have a voice on college campus anymore.
Well, your colleague at the University of Kentucky, was there last night with Turning Point chapter there. And, you know, she talked about how she had no intention when she went to college of speaking up, speaking out. And here she
Yeah.
is, the president of the chapter. Can you relate to that?
Yeah. I mean, it's I think with what happened to Charlie, it kind of created this revival of conservatism, this revival of faith, which is so awesome to see. I remember just going to church on Sunday and just seeing so many people that I hadn't seen before, and a lot of people like picked up a Bible for the first time. It was amazing to see, and it was honestly just I never expected that many people to join our chapter so quickly. Being as liberal as we are, I never thought that we would ever hit 90 people in a chapter.
And you're just getting started, I have a feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Alex, and we're speaking with Alex McGlade and Ashley Watkins, who are leaders here in the Turning Point USA movement here in our state, young leaders on their college campuses. Alex, you're at Bellarmine College here. Charlie Kirk, it was mentioned last night that he actually spoke at more churches than he did at college campuses. I didn't know that. And, but that's how important he saw the church being and the faith community being and supporting what you're doing, and talk about ways you think that can happen.
Yeah. I think things like TPUSA Faith are super important. Another big problem on college campuses is that faith is being pulled out. There's the values of Judeo-Christian values are not there anymore. And so with faith being pulled out of the picture, people are looking for, their purpose in something else. And that's what leads to the division, in my opinion. And so things like TPUSA Faith that are bringing Jesus and faith back into every part of life in America are super important, especially politics and especially universities.
We were talking here a little bit off air about how universities, a lot of our great universities in America were founded by churches, and they were very strong faith based. They did not see this dichotomy or this separation between the scriptures and the education that our future leaders needed.
Well, what's happened, Jim, is these universities have been taken over by a new orthodoxy.
Yeah.
And so they've replaced the Judeo-Christian heritage that this country was founded on, and those universities are founded on, with a new liberal Marxist woke ideology.
And what Alex and Ashley are talking about is
that.
Their experience.
Exactly
that,
right.
yeah.
And just, we don't want to let the universities just we don't want to lose universities. That they're important cultural touchstones, but it's going to take courage of the students that actually go there to push back and change the dynamic.
Yeah, we have just about a little over a minute and a half left here. You guys, I want to give you just a few seconds here at the end as we close. And it's been great having you with us today. Just some final thoughts about what you would like to see from the faith community. I know that was talked about last night. Now that we find ourselves, as Tom said, in this situation where indoctrination has taken over. But Ashley, what would you like to see from the faith community in just a few brief comment here?
Yeah, I mean, what was it last week? We had a petting zoo event and a voter registration drive for Veterans Day, and Rex showed up to it. It was very awesome to see him there and just getting the support, and then to hear him even say at the New Faith launch that they would love to support us. I think it means the world to us just to have that. Even if it's just, coming to support us when we're tabling on campus or at our speaker events, just the more the better. Just we could use all the support that we need, especially as liberal as we are on campus.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Ashley said, and Rex has already been doing a great job of this. We also had our event last week, and Rex showed up and was there in support. And like she said at the launch last night, he said, we need to support these college campuses because that's where the battle is. Like, the front lines are on the campuses. And so if it were up to me, I would just want as many collaborations with the faith, with TPUSA Faith and Rex and everything they're doing there, and just having some
Thank you, Alex McGlade, Ashley Watkins. Thanks for joining us today. We'll talk more about this coming up on our next segment right here on Kentucky's Voice. Thank you.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
I'll tell you what, you couldn't go to the inaugural meeting of the Turning Point USA Faith chapter at Evangel last night, not come away just impressed. Tom Fallbush here in the studio with what we're seeing from these young leaders on our campus. I
Absolutely.
can't say enough about their courage, their strength. You know, the leader from University of Kentucky, we'll have her on, but you know, she had quite a testimony about, and I think this is a testimony a lot of young people have when they go to college. You know, it can be an intimidating process,
Right.
even without the indoctrination, even
Exactly.
without all of the things you've been taught and
That's
heard
right.
at church and heard at home, being challenged and undermined. It's hard enough.
Yeah.
But when that's happening, it's really tough, and you almost have to change your mindset. And that's what she was talking about last night. About when she went, she was not intending to stand up and be vocal, but here she is, the president of Turning Point chapter on the major Kentucky college university.
Exactly right. Yeah, you just have to come at it with just a lot of strength. You know, just to go. You can just go with the flow and just submit to the indoctrination, or you can resist. But resisting takes courage, and so you need an organization like TP Faith or TP Camp, the TP USA group, to encourage students to come together and say, listen, you're not alone. We all agree this is wrong what these colleges are doing to you, what they're teaching you, the indoctrination, the pressure, and so here's a way to fight back, and it's so needed. But those campus organizations also need outside support, and that's why I think TPUSA was so brilliant in starting TPUSA Faith, because that now taps into the faith community in the area that can help support, provide air cover. In a sense,
that was the vision.
Yeah.
That's not a different vision than what Charlie Kirk
That's
had.
right.
That is really,
it's a complementary vision.
And really, it's certainly a tragedy. It comes out of a tragedy, but it's happening faster than he could have ever. He knew this was. He wanted this to happen, but it's happening because of this terrible, tragic event. But out of that has come a really fast growing movement. And I think it's so important to have the perspective of our young people here. And we're joined by Zach Scott, who's I call him our in-house GZer. Dan, you need to put that on the screen. No, I'm just kidding. But Zach, thanks for joining us. You were at the event last night, and I know you've been following this. And I just want to get your perspective. I mean, in terms of what you heard and what you've experienced and what you know about what's happening on our college campuses and what you and how you see Turning Point USA and the Turning Point USA faith communities coming together and really presenting a strong opposition to the indoctrination and the wokeism that we've seen on our campuses.
Yeah, I mean, as a young college student myself, I thought last night was really inspiring. We definitely need more champions of free speech and thoughts, like Charlie himself. And college should really be about sharing different ideas, but instead, it's often a battlefield of expression. And last night, it was so great to hear from the leaders of Turning Point USA at UK, U of L, and Bellarmine, and I really love this new chapter that they started at Evangel, and I think it's such a great thing because Charlie often talked about there's really been a revival of faith among Gen Z, among Gen Alpha, even some later millennials, and I really think that we're at such a pivotal time in our nation's history, and I think a lot of people have waken up, especially in light of the terrible, awful tragedy that happened just over 2 months ago now. I think a lot of people are turning to faith because there was a lot of demonic reactions to his death, as we saw online at U of L. There's flyers posted saying "debate this," and it was a terrible graphic image of Charlie. I mean, it was a cartoon, but it was still awful. And
Well, don't,
I
don't you
just
think that, and you talk about college should be, a place of freedom of ideas, expression. It seems okay if you're on the left. It seems okay if your
yeah.
views are wokeism. So that's not really freedom, if it's like you
Yeah,
don't.
and I've been in certain college classes where it seems like they're only wanting to push one specific view, and it's like I almost have to pretend like I'm leftist, and I don't want to pretend. I just want to be my authentic self. Like if I'm conservative, I can share my conservative viewpoint. I don't have to participate in a leftist viewpoint because that's the narrative, that's the agenda, that's the curriculum that they push.
Yeah,
Well, Tom
Ultimately,
Fallbush,
yeah,
what
and
are
really,
your thoughts?
part of it is this. Colleges used to be this venue for open discussion, for free ideas, just to explore truth, just to explore what is right, and that used to be the ethos, the culture. But since the '60s, you basically you had a takeover of the left, and the left see themselves as sort of a righteous cause, and they see the country that they're in as flawed, and they see their mission is instead of having free and open expression of ideas, their mission is to go in and craft and create a new type of citizen, a new type of person that is to conform to their worldview, which is to them a spiritual, messianic sort of worldview, utopian worldview of we can fix all these inherent structural problems with America because it's so unfair and racist and unjust. We can fix
systematic
that.
racism.
Systematic. We can fix that by just indoctrinating these college students to all the problems of America, and then in making them warriors on this cause. And that's why you're feeling that pressure. They feel like they're doing good by doing this. And so,
Yeah.
but
And I
I
think
was just
it's
gonna.
important. I think it's important. The Turning Point has this educational element to it about the
yes,
history of our nation because
right.
you're not getting that. You're certainly not getting that on
That's
the
right.
university
That's right.
campuses, and about what makes America exceptional and
Exactly.
great. And that was the great thing about Charlie Kirk. He had this. He was self-taught.
Yeah.
He talked about dropping out of college or
right.
not going,
Yeah.
and he taught himself. And it's interesting. Some of the great leaders in our nation's history taught. Abraham Lincoln
That's
taught
right.
himself, and
That's right.
and he learned.
Autodidacts.
Yeah, and but he
autodidacts,
was a
yeah.
person of faith. He was not somebody who threw away his thinking at the door of the church house, but he brought that into that, and he was a great example, of what we need from the church and Christians being the salt and light in a community like the university that we see today.
That's right.
What do you think about that, Zach?
Yeah, I was just gonna add, our politics should be informed by our faith. It shouldn't be like this, just like
Right.
they're completely separate from each other. And Brown, some of the country's Ivy League schools, like Brown University, for example, was founded by Baptists. I believe Yale and Harvard were founded by Congregationalists. Princeton was founded by Presbyterians. I mean, all these schools, these Ivy League schools, were founded by ministers to train other ministers. And today, I feel like a lot of these schools, especially the Ivy Leagues, they've totally lost that. I mean, I know Charlie started this website where you can go and you can see like if a professor is super liberal or not, and
That's
it's
genius.
just. Yeah, it's just everything's changed so much.
But he was not afraid to go into the lion's den, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I hope, and do you guys hope that we can that can continue? Maybe it's not one Charlie Kirk was the leader of this, recognizable leader, but this needs to happen across our country.
Well, one thing I want to see that I hope Turning Point USA, and it seems like they're not doing this, but I hope they don't change their approach to what they're doing on college campuses. Don't let that murderer, that assassin, change the mission
100%.
of TPUSA. Still going on campuses, having these open discussions, having these debates. That's the solution. That's the only way we're going to turn this country. Otherwise, it's either words or bullets.
And we have to have people who can do that.
Exactly
Charlie
right.
Kirk was able to do that, and we have to have. I think,
and he was so effective. That's why they took him out.
And we need to have many more. I think, don't you, Zach? We need to have many more people who are actually effective, who actually can go on campus and confidently say, "Prove me wrong."
Right.
Yeah, and they're not gonna kind of to add to what Tom was saying. They can't corner us. They can't back us into a corner just because we're saying words. Like you can't go out and grab a long rifle and just start shooting people because, unfortunately that's what did happen on September 10th. But they can't. We're not going to back down. We're going to stand up for truth. We're going to stand up for faith. We're going to stand up for freedom. We're going to be courageous. We're going to be bold. Bold as lions, and we're going to be ferocious, but we're going to do it with love.
I've got a couple of questions. I've got a question I want to get in here before our break, and that is for you guys. There are a lot of churches and pastors right now who are hesitant. Talk to them. Tom,
well, let me say, one reason TPUSA, the reason TPUSA Faith was created is because Charlie was so disappointed in the church and why they weren't stepping out and fighting the cultural battle, because he saw that this cultural battle is really a spiritual battle, and the church was AWOL. And the reason is you've had a lot of leaders in evangelicalism that, for one, have been co-opted by the left. There's a whole study on this. There's a book called Shepherds for Sale, where George Soros and all these left-wing organizations purposely went in and infiltrated evangelical circles and tried to co-opt them to this woke ideology. And you can see that's so evangelicalism, which is the mainstream of Christianity in America, got really wobbly in its mission over the past decade. He saw that. He goes, we need to correct that, and plus we need to stand up and support pastors and faith communities that actually want to believe these issues and want to fight. And so thank God he did that. And so because these college campuses, these kids need the outside support.
I was just gonna say to all these pastors that encourage this woke ideology, are afraid to stand up to it. Are you going to be are you going to be lukewarm? Like, are you going to meet the Jesus that says, "Woe to you! I will spit you out of my mouth, you workers of iniquity"? Or are you going to meet the Jesus that says, "Well done, good and faithful servant"? Yeah, and that's the thing that at the end of the day,
that's right. That's right.
And this myth too, that there is a neutral public square that we can go back to. At the end of the day, somebody's religious worldview is going to reign. Right now, it's the left-wing religious worldview is reigning on college campus. We need to bring back the Judeo-Christian worldview, and there is no neutral position anymore. It's one or the other.
Well,
and TPUSA recognizes
Thanks for those great comments, and we want to hear from you. If you were there at that event last night, let us know. Or if you want to get involved, 502-571-0970. We will get you connected to the folks doing this. If you need help with that, let us know. And give to this work. This is a ministry. This is listener-supported. 502-571-0970. Text GIVE to that. Coming up, Cuban-American Hector Gonzalez. He's warning America about the dangers of communism next.
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
This is Kentucky's Voice. Thanks for joining us. Make us part of your day, 11 to noon each weekday. We want to hear from you as well, 502-571-0970. We have been talking today and heard from young leaders who are carrying the torch after Charlie Kirk's assassination. And I thought today we were going to hear from a voice from history warning us not to repeat that, but Hector Gonzalez we're still trying to track him down. So we may have him on, and he'll get a whole show, maybe, or half a show in the future. But I do want to mention Hector is a Cuban American. He lived through the nightmare of Castro's communist takeover of Cuba, he and his family. He's got a powerful story to tell, and he escaped with his family, came to Florida, ended up in Louisville here. It's quite a story about how he got here, and he wants to warn his fellow Americans not to follow the same path that they followed in Cuba. He's very concerned about this. I talked to him some yesterday. But if you want to hear his story this week, you can plan to attend the Kentucky Family Association event this Thursday, a couple days from now, 11 a.m. at the Wildwood Country Club. That's at 5000 Bardstown Road. He's going to be speaking, Hector is, on how communists are taking over America just like they took over Cuba. That's his presentation. So serious stuff, good stuff. And if you'd like to attend that, it's $25 for a hot buffet lunch. And you can contact Donna Belton at 502-594-0025 or contact me here, Kentucky's Voice. You can text 502-571-0970 and we will get you connected.
What day is that? What day is that?
That is Thursday.
Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, that's a great lunch out there, and they have a great setup.
Yeah, Wildwood's
I've
great.
spoke out there before a couple times, and so if you get a chance to go, it'd be well worth your time if you're able to make it. But let's just continue here on this final segment. There's so much to say and dig into on this. And of course, last night Tom Fallbush in the studio with me, Zach Scott staying with us via Zoom. But you know that we were talking about how important it is for really pastors to understand. I think a lot of them are just kind of afraid of getting into something what they consider to be political. But like the point was made, Tom, the Constitution is not a the Constitution is not a partisan document. I mean, Republicans and Democrats didn't even exist when that was written. I mean, so it's not.
Well, it's partisan if you're a conservative and you want to maintain the Constitution. If you want to change the Constitution and change what the country's about, then the Constitution will be a partisan issue.
But that's not really a part. That's not a party issue. That should be something we all. That should be the goal of every one of them.
It should be.
Don't you think, Zach?
Yeah, but there are left wingers that don't want the Constitution the way they don't want the country structured the way it is, and so it would be partisan to them, to that.
Well,
that
they
person.
called it that. That's what, but it's not partisan.
It shouldn't be partisan. It shouldn't be partisan, but to them it is
something we all agree upon.
That's right. Or they shouldn't be Americans. Well, they should leave.
When the founders created that, they knew there was going to be this back and forth, so they wanted a guiding document. I think they were genius in seeing that. But I see and that's what just really is crazy is the left will call it a partisan document, which is crazy because it's not. But they consider it to be, as you said.
Let me say this too about the pastors. I get it. A lot of pastors are afraid to say anything political in the pulpit because they're afraid they'll lose their congregation, lose a portion of their congregation. And a lot of churches, especially in the past 5 years, have really suffered because of the COVID issues. A lot of people left church; they haven't returned, so congregations are down. A lot of congregations are aging, starting to age out. And so they're just scared. It's like, I've got this church I've got to maintain. I got the bills I got to pay. And if I say anything about gay marriage in my church, I might lose one of my big tithers over here. Well, like Zach said, you're going to confront the Lord one day. And you've got a responsibility as a pastor to speak the truth and to preach the gospel, preach the Bible. And not just this modern interpretation of the Bible.
The Bible this watered-down Christianity.
Let me ask you guys about this. I heard a pastor here in the city. He was concerned about that. In all fairness, it wasn't so much he was going to lose people. He thinks there are more important things to talk about as a preacher and in church that he doesn't want. And so that's another issue.
Yeah. Well, how do you answer that? Well, you say, what is more important, the freedom to actually preach the gospel, which is what we're fighting for? Because if the left would have won, if Joe Biden would have won, there's a good chance you would have laws like you have up in Canada where you cannot preach the gospel. You cannot preach something against gay marriage because it would be a hate crime. And so there's a point where it's no longer an option. It's either you vote and get involved in politics. Actually, let me say this: the Bible is a political book. Everything in it's about politics.
Absolutely.
Everything.
Jesus was killed by the government, right? Let me say this. Right. All the prophets were killed by the government.
The last night they had
so quit trying to run from that.
They had the board out there showing.
The Bible is universal. Yeah. It talks about every aspect of life. It gives you a moral framework. And what a country that thrives is a country that lines up with those Judeo-Christian values.
And last night they had that out. They had the poster board out there of all the.
So quit being afraid of that.
They had all the.
I was just gonna say in the book of Matthew, Jesus literally says, I have come not to bring peace, but a sword.
That's right.
And there's also a verse talking about how pastors are held above reproach. They're held to a higher standard. So if they're going to be scared to speak up about these things, the Bible is literally telling them not to do that, to be bold. I mean, just think about the countless saints, martyrs, the early apostles, all the faithful, faithfully departed throughout Christian history. I mean, they weren't scared to talk. Right. The church wouldn't be here today if
Zach, let me add to that. American history. You wouldn't have the country. You wouldn't have the America if it wasn't for the First Great Awakening. It wasn't for the what they call the Black Robe Regiment, which are basically pastors that had congregations that they preached every week, and they said, "Listen, we need freedom and liberty because this oppressive British government here is taking away our freedoms. That's wrong. There's no king but King Jesus." And so, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have the country. Then you go to the abolitionist movement. The whole abolitionist movement came from evangelical Christians.
Yes.
So and then let's go to the civil rights era. The civil rights era came from evangelical Christians. So it's the church getting involved in politics is what has saved this country time and time again, and it's going to save it again.
It's the church being the salt and the light.
That's right.
Jesus
exactly right. That's the only thing that makes America great.
This off of our Kentucky's Voice text line, and by the way, guys, this isn't just happening. This this battle, if you will, of ideas and thought is not just happening in the church; it's happening everywhere. Is this off our text line? Is there any information available about the superintendent of Christian Academy denying a Turning Point USA chapter for the school? My
Really?
question is, who encouraged the superintendent? Did the students, parents, teachers have a voice in this decision?
If that happened, that needs to be called out.
And well, it was mentioned. It was mentioned last night, I think, and the superintendent or somebody mentioned it to me, but
Well,
the
somebody needs to
superintendent
call
was not.
Christian
So we
Academy
need to
and ask for
find
that.
out
Yeah.
exactly what happened. But my understanding is a lot of folks wanted it, and they had actually begun to start it, but the superintendent shut it down, and when it got to them, so
That's crazy.
that should not be on campus.
This-
We should be encouraging Zach Scott. We should be encouraging young people
Yes.
in the high school. That was Charlie Kirk's vision.
Yes, and this cowardly milk toast Christianity that says I'm not going to speak up about the current looming issues of the day. I'm going to be afraid. I mean, think of the quote. There's a quote out here. I think it's by one of the early church writers. The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church.
That's right.
And if Charlie Kirk was here today, I'm sure he'd be saying the same thing. I'm a martyr. I want you to continue my mission, not be afraid, live boldly, stand for truth.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate our young folks who were on with us today, and got a text from the staff of Bellarmine. Someone on the staff there said, "Thank you for having the Bellarmine Turning Point USA president on your show. I am Bellarmine staff and was so happy to see their table on campus last week. There are only a few conservatives on campus, and it was exciting to see students come forward. This is at a private Catholic university.
That's right.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, let me say this about Turning Point USA Faith. That what the chapter that opened last night. That is just one chapter of what could potentially be hundreds of chapters in this city. Every church could have one of these. And now, granted, we have one now at Evangel. If you want to get involved in a chapter, this is a great chapter to be in. You don't have to be part of that church. You can just show up and be part of that chapter. So the church is really just hosting it as a facility. But every church could have their own chapter, and we encourage you to do that. We encourage you to, this Turning Point was originally just a kind of a college and student-oriented project, but it has expanded. It's expanded to where the average citizen can get involved, and through the faith chapters. And so we encourage you to do that. And that is
we
it's
wanna
probably the
see it
strongest.
expand.
Yeah, we want to see it expand.
into the high schools
Yeah.
too. That was part of
In
The
high
high
schools,
schools,
yeah.
colleges, and hey, you don't know. I showed up last night and I grabbed a few Chick-fil-A chicken sandwiches, and if you sign up, you get a button. So
There we
who
go.
knows if
There
you
you
show
get a
up one
button
night,
and a
you get some-
sandwich.
free
but,
food.
But it is the strongest conservative political activist group in the country, probably the strongest I've seen in my lifetime. And they're hitting everything right. They're hitting the right note on every issue, and they're mainstream conservatism. And Charlie had a great vision, and I believe the people that are going to carry it forward are going to maintain his vision and his ethos. And so we need to get behind it, because we need this. Listen, the fight's not over. This country is really still in jeopardy, in a lot of jeopardy. We need to stand up and fight. Everybody needs to show up.
And
it's all hands on deck.
Right. And it was also brought up last night by some of these young people. And you can do this whatever your personality. You might think I'm not an aggressive, outgoing person. You know what? We heard the president of the University of Kentucky Turning Point chapter talk about how she just gets people and sits down with them and says, "What do you believe? And where do you stand?" And this can be very effective, especially if you know where you stand and what you believe.
That's right.
And you can share that. That's what Charlie Kirk
Just
did.
discussion in goodwill, and also sometimes just clarity is more important. Just asking people what they believe and listening to them without even challenging them, but just understanding it, and so that you can then voice your opinion, hope so they can understand you. And very often, most college students, most students in general, have not heard a conservative perspective their entire life. They don't even know it exists. And so even just sharing a viewpoint is going to be just eye-opening to them, because they've never heard it before. The whole world they swim in is left-wing, from media to culture to education. And so
first, and if I'm going to bring in a scripture verse here, guys, to end this today, and it's out of 1 Peter. It's 1 Peter 3:15. And says, "Instead, you must worship Christ as Lord of your life. And if someone asks you about your hope as a believer, always be ready to explain it." And the King James says, "Always be ready to give an answer." be ready to give an answer. That whole idea of being able to, and that's what we should strive for. I think we should strive to be prepared to answer whatever the objections to Christianity are. We've got the answer. We've got the truth,
right.
the way, the truth, and the life. And I hope you will make that part of your life as well. Whatever your situation, old, young, whatever, be ready to give an answer for what you believe, why you believe it, and about this country, about your faith. We've got a lot of work to do. So thanks for joining us today. It's been a great show, and mainly because you were with us here on Kentucky's Voice. Join us tomorrow again at 11. Have a great